You pretty much secured the southern border, haven't you?
Yes, sir. The CBP,
And that upsets some of my colleagues, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They say you've done it the wrong way, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Could you answer that?
Yes, sir. They do say that.
Do you think they're upset because you supposedly did it the wrong way, or you think they're upset that you did it at all?
I think they're upset that by President Trump enforcing the law, it happened so quickly and successfully.
Yeah. Now, when President Biden came into office, the first thing he did was get rid of all of the things we were doing to stop people from coming into our country illegally, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, it was like The Price is Right. Come on down. Except he said, come on in. And most of my Democratic colleagues went along with that, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
In fact, they cheered him on, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
How many people do you think President Biden let into our country illegally? Just give me a ballpark figure.
Hey, Patriots. Welcome back to Right View Nation, where we bring you the unfiltered truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that should make every true American's blood boil. You know, folks, I just watched this incredible exchange between Senator John Kennedy and Secretary Kristi Noem about what's really happening at our southern border. And let me tell you, it confirms everything we've been saying on this channel for years. Senator Kennedy, one of the few straight shooters left in Washington, asked the questions that needed to be asked. And Secretary Noem, she didn't mince words. She laid out the cold, hard facts about what the Biden administration did to our once secure border. 20 million illegal immigrants. Let that sink in, Patriots. 20 million. That's like adding 10 entire states the size of Nebraska to our country virtually overnight. This isn't immigration. This is an invasion. And why did they do it? Well, Secretary Noem confirmed what we've been saying all along. They wanted this to happen. This wasn't incompetence. This was the plan.
Sir, we don't know for certain, but we believe it could be upwards to 20 million people that are illegally in this country.
So that's like adding 10 Nebraskas to our country, isn't it?
That's correct.
Why do you think President Biden and my Democratic colleagues did that? Do you think they believe in open borders?
I think they believed in open borders and letting people come into this country that would affect our society and criminals. Those other countries emptying out the worst of the worst, their mental institutions, their prisons came in here and jeopardized, and known terrorists.
Well, only one or two circumstances are possible, it seems to me. Either President Biden and the Democrats who supported him believe in open borders, or the people that President Biden put in charge of securing the border, you wouldn't trust to run a snowball stand, right?
That is correct.
So nobody is that incompetent. So it has to be, they just believe in open borders, do they not?
Yes, because I know the people who were securing the border and they weren't allowed to do their job.
Do you think they believe that vetting people at the border is racist?
Yes, I do. I think by the way they allowed people in and granted them immediate parole status.
Do you think that President Biden and some of my Democratic colleagues, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, Madam Secretary, thought of these foreign nationals in our country illegally as potential new voters?
I do, sir.
Okay. If you're an ordinary American and you oppose illegal immigration, but you support legal immigration, does that make you a racist?
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. It just means that you believe there should be a rule of law, and that's what America was built on.
And that's what you've been enforcing, right?
Exactly. We have been following the Constitution and the rule of law in this country.
And I want to be sure I understand, because there's been a lot of confusing testimony here. You've secured the border, have you not?
This administration has, yes, sir.
And some of my colleagues are upset with you.
Yes, sir.
and they say you did it wrong.
Yes, sir.
And do you agree with me that what they're really upset about is that you did it at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to ask you a last question about our federal judiciary. I've said repeatedly that all of us has a moral and a civic obligation to follow federal orders, and I stand by that. But there have been a lot of national injunctions, universal injunctions issued to try to stop you from doing your job. Where were these judges when people were breaking the law and coming into our country illegally? Were any of them speaking up and issuing national injunctions against the Democrats?
I don't believe I can be specific about every single judge, but these judges that now are trying to stop us from enforcing our laws, I don't believe or recall them.
Can you
being
think,
vocal then.
Madam Secretary, of one single solitary federal judge who, when President Biden and my Democratic colleagues, not all of them, but many of them,
Gentleman's time has expired.
Secretary or Senator Murray went on over about 2 minutes, so I'm going to take a minute.
Senator Van Hollen just got shut down.
Yes,
right
if
on
you
the
can,
zeros.
if you can finish your question.
Can you recall one single solitary federal judge when President Biden and my Democratic colleagues were letting 20 million people come into the country illegally?
I don't recall.
Can you think of one
you.
single solitary judge
you.
that
This
is
issued
more
a
than-
national
This is
injunction
more than
to
one
stop
question.
them?
No, I can't recall
I
one.
can't either. If there weren't
you,
for
Senator
double
Kennedy.
standards
Madam
around
Chair,
here,
Okay.
Madam
there
And
wouldn't
so
be any
Senator Peters-
standards at all, Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
Committee,
Thank
Madam
you,
Chair.
Senator Kennedy.
I'd-
Senator Peters.
Madam, let me just say, let's apply the rules fairly. Senator Van Hollen was asking tough questions, but was shut down pretty immediately when his time was expired. Can we at least have a commitment, Madam Chair, that senators on this committee will be allowed to submit questions for the record,
Absolutely.
and that you will
Yes.
Absolutely.
ask the secretary to answer those questions?
When President Trump was in office, we had the most secure border in decades. The wall was being built. Remain in Mexico was working. Catch and release was ending. We were finally enforcing our laws. But what happened the moment Biden took office? As Senator Kennedy perfectly put it, it was like the price is right, except Biden was saying, come on in, instead of come on down. Let's be crystal clear about something, my fellow patriots. There's nothing, and I mean nothing, racist about wanting secure borders. Every sovereign nation on earth has the right and responsibility to control who enters their country. Period. Secretary Noem confirmed it. Supporting legal immigration while opposing illegal immigration doesn't make you racist. It makes you a law-abiding citizen who respects this great nation. Now here's where it gets really interesting. When Senator Kennedy asked why Biden and the Democrats threw open our borders, Secretary Noem didn't hesitate. 2 reasons. First, they truly believe in open borders as an ideology. It's part of their globalist agenda that puts America last, not first. And second, this is critical, folks. They see these millions of illegal immigrants as potential voters. That's right. This isn't about compassion. It's about power. It's about fundamentally transforming our electorate. And while hardworking Americans are struggling with inflation, crime, and strained public services, what do we see? Federal judges who sat silent during Biden's border disaster suddenly issuing injunctions left and right to prevent the current administration from securing our border. As Senator Kennedy said, if it weren't for double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. Patriots, this is why elections matter. This is why we fought so hard. This is why we need to stay vigilant. When President Trump came back into office, what happened? The border was secured quickly. Effectively. The exact same border that Biden claimed couldn't be secured was secured within days. Let that sink in. They told us it couldn't be done. They said walls don't work. They said enforcing our laws was somehow cruel or racist. But Secretary Noem confirmed what we all knew. It was never about inability. It was about unwillingness. You know, I've been to the border. I've talked to Border Patrol agents whose morale was completely destroyed under the previous administration. Good men and women who were essentially ordered to stand down while our nation was being invaded. These brave patriots wanted to do their jobs, but they weren't allowed to. Can you imagine the frustration? Can you imagine watching people stream across the border, including known criminals and potential terrorists, and being told to just let it happen? And it wasn't just Border Patrol suffering. It was American communities. The drugs flowing across the border have destroyed countless American lives. Fentanyl alone has become the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45. That's not coming from nowhere, folks. That's coming across our southern border. Secretary Noem confirmed that other countries were literally emptying their prisons and mental institutions, sending their worst to America. And Biden's administration rolled out the red carpet for them. But here's the good news, Patriots. What Secretary Noem and Senator Kennedy's exchange proves is that securing the border isn't some impossible task. It doesn't require decades or billions more dollars. It simply requires the will to enforce our existing laws. When you have leadership that puts America first, that prioritizes the safety and sovereignty of our nation, the border can be secured almost overnight. I want us to think about something. Why is it that the same people who scream about democracy and the rule of law were totally fine with a president who refused to enforce our immigration laws? Why is it that the same media outlets that obsess over every perceived threat to our institutions were silent when millions of people were allowed to cross our border illegally? The answer is simple. It was never about principles. It was always about power. My fellow patriots, we have to stay engaged. We have to keep fighting. The left isn't going to give up their dream of open borders and a permanently transformed electorate. They're going to keep fighting in the courts. They're going to keep using their friends in the media to vilify anyone who believes in borders. But now we have confirmation from the highest levels. The border crisis was manufactured. It was intentional. And it can be fixed when we have leaders who actually want to fix it. This is why I need you to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with everyone you know. The truth is our most powerful weapon in this fight. Also, drop a comment below telling me what you think the next steps should be to keep our border secure for the long term. Should we focus on more wall construction, more technology, more Border Patrol agents? I want to hear from you, the true patriots of this great nation. Remember, folks, a nation without borders isn't a nation at all. And despite what the globalists want you to believe, America is still a sovereign nation worth fighting for. This is Right View Nation, bringing you the truth they don't want you to hear. Until next time, stay strong, stay vigilant, and keep fighting for America.